It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations, we cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Cruz.
Question for you. Did you get out for the duck opener? In my home state of Washington, it happened last weekend, and I was out at our favorite family spot, a little pond in the Columbia Basin, with my kids, who, I'll be honest, have grown up far too fast. They did most of the shooting, while I worked with my dog Georgia and did the duck calling, what calling that was needed, at any rate, on an opener. And as for success, well, the kids, they weren't skunks, but they didn't come home with limits either. But boy, oh boy, they did get some fast shooting in that first hour of the morning. The Columbia Basin was crowded with both hunters and a good population of local ducks, both of which was nice to see after lower than average numbers of both in that area over the last couple of years. As for the rest of our western states, I can share some reports courtesy of Avery Outdoors when it comes to that. They are really good about sharing this information with our show, and we love sharing it with you. In Northeast Washington, Avery Pro staffer Kent Contreras reports a successful opener along the Pend Oreille River for both puddle ducks and greater Canada geese, though it was a little slower than he was used to. In northeastern California, the season opened up on the 6th, and pro staffer Gene Carter said it went well. Carter also said that the rice harvest is in full swing in Northern California. Local mallard numbers are up, and lots of speckle-bellied geese are leaving Sutter Refuge around dusk for some of those freshly harvested and flooded rice fields, which should make this weekend's opener a good one in other parts of California. In the California Delta, Avery Pro staffer Jacob Emmerling is also reporting local mallard numbers are looking great, as well as numbers for all three species of teal. And finally, in western Nevada, where the season has been open since the 6th, Travis Lyle reports there are good numbers of both puddle ducks and geese around, but pressure from hunters and sky busting the birds is pushing them to the safety of the refuges and out of reach of hunters. By the way, if you're looking for some quality waterfowl gear, check out AveryOutdoors.com. You'll find a whole bunch of good stuff there for this season and beyond. We've got a big-time guest for you this week on our show. It's none other than Steve Rinella, the man behind the show MeatEater. Season 7 is now available on Netflix, and Steve, who is coming at us while filming a show in Chesapeake Bay, will talk about his television show, his podcast, and a new venture featuring some very talented voices in the outdoors called MeatEater Inc. Thom Abraham is another outdoors media personality joining us this week. He is the voice of Bassmaster Radio, heard on 126 stations around the country and at Bassmaster.com. He'll weigh in about the impacts the new Bass Pro Tour with Major League Fishing is having on both the Bassmaster and Fishing League worldwide tournament circuits, and talk about some new innovations and things happening with Bassmaster on the tournament trail for 2019 that look to be pretty exciting. Also during the show, we'll talk about the impact a strict gun control initiative that's on the ballot in Washington State could have on young hunters, a demographic we really need to get into the sport of hunting. If passed, this initiative would outlaw the possession of semi-automatic rifles to anyone under the age of 21, to include the popular .22 caliber rifles many of us learned to shoot as kids that served as our introduction into the shooting sports. Lars Daleseide with the National Rifle Association will join us to tell you more about that. Throw in quail hunting forecasts for several states around the country and a story about mountain lions menacing a hunter in Oregon, and we've got a real action-packed episode for you this week. And with hunting season in mind, it is time to talk about a big event happening in the state of Minnesota. It's the 16th annual Minnesota Governor's Deer Hunting Opener. It's going to happen November 1st, and with us here to tell you more about it is Craig Engwall. He's the executive director of the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association. Craig, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
So, Craig, again, the 16th annual Minnesota Governor's Deer Hunting Opener. This is going to happen at the Grand Casino in Hinckley on Thursday, November 1st. What's this all about?
Well, it's about a number of things. First and foremost is to celebrate our deer hunting heritage and traditions in Minnesota. There are other states that have the tradition of deer camp, but nobody does it quite like Minnesota. And deer camps go back, 100 years with the same people and generations coming. So, for instance, in my family, my dad and grandpa started our camp in 1949, and it's been a continuous family place every deer season. So we get together, and now I've gone from being the 10-year-old begging to go there in the early 70s to the old guy in camp with my cousin who have now kids in camp with us. So it's a tradition that continues. It brings family together at a very special time. And, of course, the hunt is very exciting. Additionally, the governor's deer opener is meant to highlight the economic impact that deer hunters have in Minnesota. Hunters as a whole spend approximately $750 million each year in Minnesota, and the vast majority of that comes from deer hunters, and that benefits a number of businesses. The small towns in Minnesota are all orange during this time of year, and it's a very exciting time both in terms of hunting, but also what a difference it makes to those communities.
Oh, this really is exciting. Now, I know that Governor Dayton and some other notable speakers are going to be talking during the dinner hour of this event on November 1st, but there's some other stuff going on, too. I understand there's a Welcome to Camp celebration and several seminars that will be taking place at the casino. Tell our listeners about these events.
Yep, there are a whole bunch of seminars, and Welcome to Camp. We get everybody who's there together in one big picture in all our orange, and that's usually several hundred people at least. But there are a number of seminars that can range from knife sharpening and different things to how to butcher a deer. We'll have Minnesota DNR staff there to talk about the hot issues in deer hunting. Of course, chronic wasting disease is one of them, which fortunately has been relatively isolated in Minnesota. But they'll talk about deer numbers and other things. There's a telling of a story of the legendary Jim Jordan buck, which is a monster buck that was shot over 100 years ago in the area, and it's kind of a lore, but it's true. And it was a big, massive deer. And then there'll be things such as our conservation officers with they call it the Wall of Shame, and we have a program here called Turn In Poachers where people can make anonymous tips and turn in people who poach. And it's striking. It's kind of sad, but it's the mounts, these big deer that have been poached that we bring around to various locations to show the bad things that can be done, but the efforts that are out there to protect our deer herd from poaching. So a whole bunch of different things like that. Booths from our organization, which will highlight the recruitment of the R3, as it's called, recruitment, retention, and reactivation. DNR will have a booth. Some other organizations will have booths, and it's just a chance to get out and enjoy what we do, and then there'll be a very nice dinner for the event as well with the speakers.
This is a fantastic event, and I think the other 49 states in the Union could learn a lot from what you're doing in Minnesota. So it's obvious that deer hunting's a really big deal in your state. If you know, how many people on average go deer hunting in Minnesota every year, and how many white-tailed deer are they bringing home?
Yeah, I'm compelled to know those kind of numbers with my job. But it's around 500,000 hunters in Minnesota, and that's in a state of 5 million. So we have quite an active hunting group, and I do other sports like duck hunting and pheasant hunting and grouse hunting too, but we really dwarf those other pursuits, which are great. But deer hunting is critical to Minnesota in terms of license revenue, in terms of, like I said, economic things. But it's over 500,000, and the number of whitetails brought home each year really can depend on the weather, both for the winters. I live in far northern Minnesota, where a tough winter can really take down the herd, but also even that opening weekend when most of the deer are shot, if you have a unique weather situation, that can really affect the harvest. But typically, and I would expect us to be somewhere around a harvest of 200,000, maybe a little north. We've had a few mild winters now, which were preceded by really brutal winters in the north. So an example, in 2003 we harvested 290,000 deer, and in 2015 we only harvested 139,000. So it can vary quite a bit.
Well, it sounds like with those mild winters, you are in for a good deer opener and a good deer season ahead. And folks, if you want to find out more about this event, go to mngovernorsdeeropener.com. That's mngovernorsdeeropener.com. And by the way, you are invited to attend this event November 1st at the Grand Casino in Hinckley, but you've only got till October 23rd to buy your ticket. The website again, mngovernorsdeeropener.com. And whether or not you go, consider going deer hunting in the great state of Minnesota. They love deer hunting, and they love deer hunters there. Craig, thanks for telling us about this today on America Outdoors Radio.
Thanks much, John, and I look forward to talking. And if somebody wants to reach out to us, we're at mndeerhunters.com, and they can learn about our Hides for Habitat program, where hunters donate hides. We turn that around and sell them, and we've raised over $5 million from hunters' donations alone for habitat.
Fantastic.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers seeks to ensure North America's outdoor heritage of hunting and fishing through education and work on behalf of public lands and waters. Lend your voice to the fight today by visiting backcountryhunters.org or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Why book at Sportsman's Cove Lodge?
Why is Alaska like no other place on Earth? It hasn't changed in thousands of years.
From the way you get here on a float plane to the way you go out with the guides and the boats, it's just a professional experience.
And I said, this is as good as it gets. I said, if you can't catch fish here, you can't catch fish anywhere.
Your experience with us will leave you speechless.
Book now at alaskasbestlodge.com.
Trolling for big salmon? Then tie on a spoon or spinner from McCombie's Custom Lures. These high-quality, made-in-the-USA lures help you catch more Chinook and coho. Whether you troll an Elite Series spoon, a Champion Glow spoon with a squid skirt, or a 3.5 Mini Colorado spinner, you'll be increasing your chances for a fish on. Look for McCombie's Custom Lures at Sportsman's Warehouse and other quality sporting goods stores on the West Coast and Alaska, or online at McCombie'sCustomLures.com.
You're back with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. Last week we told you about Major League Fishing. They've launched a new Bass Pro Tour, and they are literally taking anglers away from the two other big circuits, Fishing League Worldwide and the Bassmaster Elite Series. With us here this week to talk about the impact of this and what Bass is doing in response is Thom Abraham, the host of Bassmaster Radio, heard on 126 stations and on Bassmaster.com. Thom, great to have you back on the show.
Well, I appreciate you having me, John.
Let's talk about this a little bit. Major League Fishing, organization founded in part by bass fishing professionals, and a lot of them are migrating to this new tournament series, which looks very different from other tournament series. It's going to be televised on the Outdoor Channel and a lot of their outlets. It's an 80 angler event. There's 8 tours and a championship. What's this going to do to the Bassmaster Elite Series tournaments?
Well, I don't think it's going to do anything to it other than obviously take a bunch of big names away from it that were, guys that made their names as fishermen on the Bassmaster Elite Tour and on the FLW Tour. Several of these guys like Greg Hackney were very successful on the FLW Tour and then came over to Bass and were successful there. And then we'll move on, to the MLF. But it's been obviously an interesting time. There's, they took some really big names, some household names, but we can't emphasize enough, those household names were made as members of Bassmaster and members of the Elite Series, and you can kind of understand, why they want to try and do something that's different, that is maybe more controlled by the anglers, if you will. It kind of is reminiscent of the PAA, if you remember that 10 years ago. The anglers wanted to have a little bit more control and do that. But the net result on the Elite Series has been, Bassmaster responded. Some would say that maybe it would have been all avoided if Bassmaster had done this maybe a year ago or so. But in any event, Bassmaster did respond, and they responded with adjustments to the Elite Series for 2019 that are absolutely stunning, where, guys that are committed now and have committed to the Elite Series for 2019 that were elite anglers in 2018 are fishing for gas money, John. I mean, it's amazing, the kind of money that's available to them for basically no entry fee.
And I want to talk more about that. I understand that pretty much everybody in the Elite Series now is going to get a paycheck. Is that correct?
Yeah, they will pay 1 through 80. The model was based on 80 spots, by the way. And let me just say this up front. I doubt very seriously there'll be 80 on the Elite Series this year. I think they'll be somewhere between 65 and 70. And the reason is that the guys that are re-upping, they've contracts that are 2 or 3 year contracts, with the Elite Series. And you need to leave a little bit of room so that next year's Bass Pro Shops Bassmaster Open Series will still have a space to qualify guys into the elites for 2020. So if you filled the field with 80, and everybody was locked in for a minimum of 2 years, next year's Open Series, guys would be out there fishing for no opportunity to get to the elite. So I believe that they'll leave a little bit of room there. But basically what Bassmaster did is they put in $2 million of fresh money. They're going to pay every single spot right down to last place, basically, on the list, which means there'll be a minimum of $23,500 in guaranteed payouts for these guys. And then, on top of that, the $20,000 early entry bonus, first 50 elites that committed to stay, that got it down to a negative $500. And then when you look at the money that was added in by Bassmaster, right now for the 2019 year, the average payout per elite angler is $97,500 against zero in, fresh money layout, out-of-pocket layout, as opposed to last year when it was $75,000 and a $45,000 entry fee. So, this has got a $50,000 a year raise. It's really stunning. It maybe should have been done earlier, but, this is the impact. This is why it's really good for all professional fishermen, what happened.
Wow. As you're running through these numbers, the only thing I can think of is, A, I wish I was a better fisherman, because, B, I think you and I are in the wrong profession, Tom.
Yeah, these guys are sticks. I fished the Eastern Opens, the Bass Pro Shops Eastern Opens, and this year was my first year out there with those guys, and, man, are they good. I fished with some young pros, and that's the key here, John, is that there are so many guys that can catch them. We just don't know Sam George and Kurt Mitchell and these other guys as well as the guys that have been out there for years and had made their name. So, my friend Mark Zona put it really succinctly on Zona Live last month. He said, look, if Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers left the NFL, they'd still have a Super Bowl. And that's exactly, what's going on here. This is coming up the 5th year of Bassmaster, the 50th Classic coming up in 2020. There's going to be a Classic, and there's going to be a whole wave of new guys that are going to make a big name for themselves through all of this exposure that Bassmaster will provide them. I learned this week, this was a stunning number, I learned this week that there's 350,000 new unique views of Bassmaster Live during a Bassmaster Elite event. I didn't realize it was that many, John.
Me either.
250,000 people watching Bassmaster Live. That's a lot of views. That's a lot of impressions for their sponsors.
Wow. One other thing I want to talk about, these elite pros, it's not like they just walk out on the stage and they've never done this before. It takes years to get there. And Bassmaster basically has venues to do this. You mentioned one of them is the Open, but Bass Nation, I've always thought of this as kind of like the blue-collar, anyone can participate level of tournament fishing, and that can lead to bigger things too, can't it?
No, yeah, absolutely. With the Bass Nation Championship coming up in November on Pickwick, they'll qualify guys that go through to Opens, and then also guys that they'll qualify a guy that will go to the Bassmaster Classic. And yeah, there's a structure in place. That's the one thing about the Elite Tour. You don't get on the Elite Tour because you're buddies with somebody, or somebody, or you got a good sponsorship deal, or whatever. You have to earn your way onto that deal. And so whether it's coming out of the college series like Jordan Lee did and so many others have, or whether it's coming, through up through the ranks of the Bass Nation and then the Opens and qualifying to the Elite Series that way, it's not an invitational deal. It's a meritocracy, and so you got to earn your way onto this thing, and that's why I say these guys, amazing. These Bassmaster are going to have 150 guys that are qualified fishermen on the Elites tomorrow. There's that much interest in wanting to be in it, but they're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to take the steps to do the right thing, And a lot of the guys that have stayed, I mean, the other John Cruz, of course, from Missile Baits, the Cruz Missile himself, he's looking forward to 2019. Keith Combs was on Bassmaster Radio with me last week. He's fired up about the upcoming year, and there's so many other guys that that are looking forward to doing a great job. Drew Benson, who won Texas Fest, will be back with the Elite, and there's just so many guys, and we're just going to learn about a whole new wave of stars.
I'll tell you what, there's a lot to digest here. I wish we had more time. One last question. You have to give me a very quick answer on this. Do you think that with the advent of Major League Fishing and their new Bass Pro Tour, is this going to be helpful or hurtful to the sport of tournament bass fishing?
No, I think it's helpful. I mean, anytime there's more opportunities, I think it's helpful. I don't know that 5 years from now it'll look like it looks right now. There might be a little bit of a boiling down process, but ultimately this will be helpful because, the price of poker went up.
Well, there you go, folks. If you want to hear more about the Bass Tournament Trail, you should be tuning in every weekend to Bassmaster Radio. Thom Abraham is the host. The easiest way to hear it is actually online at Bassmaster.com, but there's also 126 stations around the nation that carry Bassmaster Radio. So look for a station near you. Look for Bassmaster Radio. Tune in. You're going to learn a lot about bass fishing and everything that goes on with Bassmaster and the tournaments that they run. Thom, thanks for joining us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Appreciate you, John. Be good.
Are you looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? Then set the hook because we've got it right here for you. America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer affordable platforms to reach thousands of listeners interested in fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Find out more by contacting John Cruz through his website at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. Hurry, though. If you wait too long, the big opportunity might just get away. AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com.
You're back with America Outdoors Radio. We've got a real special guest. As a matter of fact, he's coming at us from location at Chesapeake Bay, where he's been doing some deer hunting and some trot lining. His name is Steve Rinella. He is the man behind MeatEater. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on.
So, Steve, very briefly, I know that you're filming a show out there at Chesapeake Bay. Exactly what are you doing there?
We are hunting for sika deer, which is a small, non-native deer that wander around in the marshes out here on the shores of Chesapeake Bay, and they bugle. They're real vocal, and you can hear them. Like if I was quiet right now, I could probably listen and hear one ripping bugles out in the middle of the marsh as we speak. And they're pretty tricky to hunt, and they're very, very good table fare, and the people around here kind of love them, and they wish that guys like me didn't talk about them publicly because they want to keep it a secret.
I'm guessing some blue crab are involved if you're at Chesapeake Bay, too?
Yeah, we did. We went out with my buddy's buddy, and we went trot lining for blue crab, where you run like a 1,200-foot trot line baited with just little chunks of chicken neck, and the crabs hang onto the bait so tenaciously. You can lift the line up, and they ride the line up to the surface, and then you scoop them off the line with a little dip net. We filled a bushel basket with blue crabs, and it was enough for 9 people to have a big crab boil. So that was a lot of fun, too.
Oh, well, I can't wait to see that on Netflix. And that's what I kind of wanted to talk about with you today, Steve, was the evolution of MeatEater. You started on the Outdoor Channel back in 2012. You gained lots of popularity about your show that was focused on the hunt and the feast that followed. But now you're on Netflix. Why the change?
Well, we just recently, within our new season that we put up on Netflix, within that lies our 100th episode. So we've been at it for a long time. And we still, we premiered on Sportsman Channel 7 seasons ago. And Sportsman Channel we still have a great relationship at Sportsman Channel. You can still find our seasons 1 through 6 are on Sportsman Channel. But yeah, it was a great opportunity to premiere a season on Netflix as a Netflix original. I was really drawn to it because, in all the work I've done, I've always been really interested in talking not just to hunters and anglers, but also to people who might be curious about hunting and fishing. And so I think it was a really good opportunity to reach a new audience with some material that they might otherwise not have found. And so that was really seductive to me. Throughout my career, I started out as a magazine writer and went into books, and from there went into TV and podcasting, and I've always just been interested in trying new things and finding new ways to put my message out. And Netflix was a perfect opportunity to do that and like I said, to reach a whole new group of Americans.
You know, speaking of podcasting, there are literally thousands and thousands of voices out there that are podcasting, but there are few that are listened to as much as the MeatEater podcast. And I love the fact that it features long-form, in-depth discussions about all sorts of things related not just to hunting, but the outdoors and conservation too. How long have you been doing this? And give or take, how many people are listening?
Yeah, so we've been doing it. We release weekly. We started out doing twice a month, and now we release episodes weekly, and we're up into almost 140 episodes. So we've been doing it for years now. I got turned on to it because one of my friends, who a lot of your listeners might be familiar with, the comedian Joe Rogan, he was an early pioneer in podcasting, and he would have me come on his show, and he encouraged me to start one. I really liked doing it. And so I'm probably, one of dozens of people who were inspired by Joe Rogan to do a podcast. And yeah, and it's great, man. We get good listeners. We have when we put an episode out, within a short window of time, that episode will scoot up into six figures of the amount of people listening. And it's a really fun way to communicate with people. And I remember when I first started the podcast, Joe had said to me, he said, man, the way you guys are doing this is going to wind up being more important to you than your show. And I wouldn't say that, but it's equally important to the show. And because of the reasons you're saying, it's like our average episode is 90 minutes. And we have, at any given time, we might have 4, 5, 6 people on the show in kind of a, roundtable discussion about a wide array of things. And it lets me explore a lot of topics that you're never going to get into. A TV show is 22 minutes, man. So, and it takes a long time to make a TV show. We can put out a 90-minute conversation every week. And so it just gives you a lot of flexibility to really talk about the things that you want to talk about and the length you want to talk about them without needing to worry about all those restrictions and obligations that you have when you're putting together a 22-minute television show.
You're absolutely right. And the other thing I love about it is that it's obvious to me. It's really unscripted. And you, unlike a lot of people who are podcasting on the radio, you are not cursed with the syndrome. And most of your guests don't seem to be either. The conversation is very smooth. You're both very literate and plain spoken at the same time. And most of your guests are too.
Yeah, I think, I try to make it feel, it's funny, when I started doing it, but I wanted it to be a combination of the Howard Stern show from the mid-'90s and Terry Gross's Fresh Air. So, I went into it thinking that, man, if it could be a little bit of that and a little bit of the other thing, meaning some of the chaos and disparate voices of Stern, but with the, very careful hosting that Terry Gross does, I wanted it to be like that. It feels kind of breezy and quick. I do go into it, and I feel like my job as the host is to try to impose a little bit of a structure on things and to keep things moving in a way and not let the conversation get bogged down. And I go into it with the knowledge of kind of where I want to begin and where I want to end up and what points I want to hit along the way. But hopefully that when you're listening, you're not seeing that happen, right? I feel that the guiding voice is kind of hidden there, and it feels very free form. And so that's what I was shooting for. And it was something that really, I don't think was something that was really happening in the outdoor space at the time. So I was glad to kind of bring that medium and bring that perspective to a new field.
You're listening to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We're talking to Steve Rinella, the man behind MeatEater. And you might say now it's MeatEater 3.0 because you've just rolled out something called MeatEater Inc. And folks, you can find out more about it at themeateater.com. Tell our listeners about this venture.
Yeah, so it's always been a goal of mine since starting MeatEater just years ago. It was just a TV show, right? And it's always been a goal of mine to expand it into other media forms, but also to expand it to include other voices and bring other people into the conversation. And throughout my career, I've met a great many people who I feel like are, one, fanatical about the outdoors, fanatical about wildlife conservation, fanatical about hunting and fishing and wild foods. And I wanted to find a way to be able to work with those people and bring them in and expand MeatEater to be something beyond myself. So it winds up being what I view to be a like-minded cast of characters, though they all have their own areas of expertise and their own styles and way they go about things. But to expand that and build out a podcasting network where fans can come and know that they're going to get the same level of quality and in-depth coverage from a variety of different properties. And also, everything from how-to material to inspirational stuff to instructional stuff, great imagery. So that's been my goal, and I'm finally able to execute on that now. And we're working with a great team of really talented content contributors.
You certainly are. And folks, some of those content contributors include Mark Kenyon with the Wired to Hunt podcast. There's April Vokey, very well-known BC fly fishing guide. Ben O'Brien with the Hunting Collective. And I understand you just picked up Sam Lundgren, the former editor now of the Backcountry Journal, published by Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. What's he going to be doing for you?
Yeah, he's going to join our editorial team, and we have a lot of other individuals that submit work with us. Like a lot of people might be familiar with the outdoor columnist Pat Durkin, who's doing work with us. The Wild Foods personality Danielle Pruitt from Wild Hole is doing work with us, and we'll keep batting on names. And people can come to MeatEater.com and find content created by these people, and then the content will be available in a wide variety of other places. But that's the best kind of way to come and see what we're all about and follow what's going on, is to go to that website. And then from there, you can discover great new podcasts and writing and video work and all kinds of other stuff.
Well, Stephen, we are going to have to let you go. But, folks, you can find out more about what Steve Rinella is up to at themeateater.com. That's themeateater.com. And be sure to catch Season 7 of Meat Eater on Netflix. It's available now. Stephen, thanks for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Appreciate it.
There's no more majestic, magical, adventuresome country than the western United States of America to enjoy a great family vacation. Hello, I'm Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inns. Shiloh Inns are still offering affordable 4-star accommodations at 2-star prices. Enjoy deluxe smoke-free suites, spacious pools and spas, and fully equipped fitness centers. From free high-speed internet in every room to a free continental breakfast or full, hot, delicious breakfast at most Shiloh Inns. There are no hidden fees like some of the big chain hotels charge. Even the kids stay free, and Shiloh Inns are dog-friendly. For reservations, call 1-800-222-2244 or visit our website at shilohins.com. Shiloh Inns, affordable excellence. American family-owned and proud of it.
There's a place where the fishing is year-round, where the sun shines 300 days a year. The wineries and breweries are right downtown. The hiking and cycling offer spectacular views you just don't get in the big cities. Fortunately, the place is real and vibrant. It's the Dalles, Oregon, just 90 short minutes from Portland, along the gorgeous Columbia River, where the adventures are limited only by your imagination. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.
I'd like to welcome a new sponsor to our show. It's Sportsman's Cove Lodge, and many anglers who have been there will tell you it really is Alaska's best lodge. Sportsman's Cove Lodge sits on a salmon highway full of kings and silvers. There's halibut too, and there are some really big ones. Finally, with decades of experience taking care of customers, Sportsman's Cove Lodge knows how to treat you right from start to finish. Ready to book your trip of a lifetime? Then call Sportsman's Cove Lodge at 800-962-7889. That's 800-962-7889. 800-962-7889 for Sportsman's Cove Lodge.
Trolling for big salmon? Then tie on a spoon or spinner from McCombie's Custom Lures. These high-quality, made-in-the-USA lures help you catch more Chinook and coho. Whether you troll an Elite Series spoon, a Champion Glow spoon with a squid skirt, or a 3.5 Mini Colorado spinner, you'll be increasing your chances for a fish on. Look for McCombie's Custom Lures at Sportsman's Warehouse and other quality sporting goods stores on the West Coast and Alaska, or online at McCombie'scustomlures.com.
Are you looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? Then set the hook because we've got it right here for you. America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer affordable platforms to reach thousands of listeners interested in fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Find out more by contacting John Cruz through his website at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. Hurry, though. If you wait too long, the big opportunity might just get away. AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz, and it's time for some outdoors news. We'll start off in the Pacific Northwest, where cougars are getting pretty darn aggressive this year. As you may recall, an adult female hiker was killed by a cougar in Oregon's Cascade Mountains in late August, and earlier this year, 2 mountain bikers were attacked, and one of them killed by an attacking cougar on a trail near North Bend, a mere half-hour's drive from Seattle. Now, we share a tale courtesy of KGW out of Portland regarding a hunter who had a close encounter with aggressive cougars near Mount Hood in Oregon. Bill Nyland told KGW he was deer hunting near Badger Lake when he saw 3 cougars. In his words, they jumped on a log probably 120 feet from me, and the minute they got in that log, they immediately turned to me and pinned their ears back, pulled their teeth out, and started growling at me. Nyland said the cougars were advancing on him and didn't seem to be scared. Finally, Nyland, who had a cougar tag, figured, I'm going to have to take one of these out of the game. He ended up shooting one of the advancing mountain lions, which by this time was only 50 to 60 feet away. Nyland's shot killed the female adult cougar, and the other cougars left the scene. Scary stuff. Glad you're okay, Bill. Turning our attention to game that won't hurt you, let's share this year's quail hunting forecast from Quail Forever. In many states, like Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska, nesting success was good, and quail counts are stable or slightly up. Meanwhile, in states like Arizona, some species like gambles and scaled quail were hurt by dry conditions, even as late monsoon rains gave the Mearns quail a late boost. In the southeast, though, excellent hatches in places like Georgia, combined with the hard work of Quail Forever chapters, creating habitat on the ground is fueling anticipation for a very good season. Want a few more nuggets from this goldmine of a forecast? In southwest Idaho, quail numbers are up from last year, and the production of young birds was excellent, which is the opposite of what occurred further east in the Magic Valley of Idaho, though you can still expect to find good hunting along the Snake River and its tributaries west of Twin Falls and as far north as Shoshone. In Tennessee, Quail Forever biologist Andy Edwards has been hearing folks tell him they've been seeing more quail this year than they've seen in recent years, and that is a good sign. Edwards says in the last 5 years, they have helped create 90,000 acres of habitat in western and middle Tennessee, and there are plenty of public lands available to hunt quail, which can be found just about everywhere in the volunteer state, except for the extreme eastern counties. Finally, in California, you've got options for a variety of different species of quail. Overall, hunters should expect to find good numbers of quail in their favorite hunting areas throughout the state. For mountain quail, hunters will want to try the foothills of the Sierra Nevada and the forests in northwestern California. California quail populations are locally abundant throughout the state, but hunters should note that several large wildfires have impacted some quail populations and plan accordingly. For Gambel's quail, hunters should expect to find birds throughout their range in southeastern California, but may wish to focus more on the area around the Mojave Desert. That's just a preview of the 2018 Quail Forever hunting forecast, and you can find out more details about your state by going to quailforever.com. And while you're there, consider joining this organization, which is doing some very good work for quail throughout our nation. It is, unfortunately, that time of year where we're all being bombarded by political ads because we've got an election coming up. But you know what? It really is important to vote, not just for your favorite candidate, but on some of the ballot initiatives going on because they can affect you as a hunter and as an angler and as a sportsman or sportswoman. Initiative 1639 in Washington State. It proposes to raise the minimum age to buy semi-automatic rifles from 18 to 21 years old. old. It's going to hold gun owners responsible if the firearm is not stored securely and somebody that's not supposed to have it uses it. It imposes a waiting period of 10 days and a background check by law enforcement similar to what's being done for pistols. And it requires completion of a firearm safety course. With us here to tell us more about the implications of this initiative on hunting and young hunters in particular is Lars Daleseide with the National Rifle Association. Lars, welcome to the show.
Appreciate you having me on, John.
So, Lars, you and I both know that hunting numbers have declined dramatically in just a 5-year period. And in particular, young hunters, we're not recruiting them into the sport at the pace we need to. What is this initiative going to do to accelerate the decline?
1639 is really going to hurt the hunting numbers that we have already, as you were explaining, that we're trying to build up and reinforce. For hunters in general, this initiative reaches out and it bans popular semi-automatic rifles, but even the ones like the Ruger 1022 or the Remington 597, which are 22 rifles. So if you're going out there and just sport shooting, then this is going to affect you. It's going to take them off the list. But when it comes to young hunters, the problem is this makes it virtually, if not completely, impossible for anyone 18 to 21 to go out and hunt because you're not allowed to own or possess any of these rifles.
The 22 rifle, it's the iconic starter rifle. So, I mean, that's what you go out to the range at as a Boy Scout to learn how to shoot. So this is a little disheartening that rifles like this that are truly meant to get kids into hunting, get kids into shooting sports are being rolled into this. The other thing that's disheartening to me is this completion of a firearm safety course. Now, to be a hunter, you already have to go through a hunter's ed course, but now this firearm safety course, it's just another barrier to gun ownership, especially in this day and age when there's so much going on, people don't want to do extra stuff.
Right, and we're never going to admonish anyone who wants to take a course. You have the time, you have the inclination, then please, go out and take a course here and there. But with a lot of people growing up, you're being taught to hunt by your dad, by your uncle, by someone like that, and that's where the exception comes into play. And as you were saying, with these 22 rifles, this is the insanity of it all. They're calling these assault weapons, for God's sake, and that's not what they are.
Now, this is just for those hunting with semi-automatic rifles, though, correct?
This is correct, yes. Anything that's on the ban list, anything that they have gone out and classified as assault rifles, so as they say, semi-automatic assault rifles, which is, it's bad enough that they came up with the term assault rifles. Now they're semi-automatic assault rifles. But this is an extensive list. Like I said, if this is something that's going to include rifles like the Ruger 1022 or the Marlin Model 60, then we're talking about anything and everything that most hunters will either start with or end with.
My guess is the people who crafted this initiative didn't even think of this, and God knows they're not going to change it now. So this is what you're stuck with, folks. This is a decision you're stuck with. You know, if you vote yes on this, you are actually putting a nail in the coffin of hunting for the next generation, because we're going to lose young hunters that we would try to recruit into the sport of hunting. Think about that before you cast your ballot. Do any other states have laws on the books that are this strict when it comes to semi-automatic rifles?
California is a prime example. New Jersey is a quick second, and there are a few others here and there that have gone completely off the deep end. So if you want to be like New Jersey and California, then that's what Washington is looking for if they pass 1639.
I think that what people are looking for is safety. So I guess I'll just ask this final question. The voters in New Jersey and California, or maybe the legislature, I should say, in those states, have passed these gun control initiatives or these gun control laws. Have they made any difference in terms of public safety or not?
No, they haven't made any difference whatsoever. So these things don't make any impact at all. It's a feel-good measure, and it does nothing to actually impact violent crime.
Well, there you go, folks. That's the other side of Initiative 1639 in Washington State. It's not just about gun safety. It's an initiative that's really going to hurt hunting as well. So think about that before you cast your ballot. And this initiative is probably going to show up or something similar to it in other states too. What's the website so folks can find out more about protecting their Second Amendment rights through the National Rifle Association, Lars?
We have a special website set up that is initiative1639.org. That's initiative 1639.org. But if you're looking for general Second Amendment legislation policy information, go to nraila.org.
That's the website to find out more about Initiative 1639. That's I-1639, an initiative that can definitely impact hunter numbers in Washington State. And if it's successful and if it passes, it's going to show up in ballots in other states too. Lars, thanks for telling us about this today on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you, John.
If you find yourself online in the days ahead, remember that you can catch our show on talkamericaradio.us. It's the new voice for conservative talk radio, and they broadcast our show every Saturday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern Time. That website again, talkamericaradio.us. You can also hear our show on demand on 3 different platforms: Stitcher, Podbean, and YouTube. Just look for America Outdoors Radio and our sister show, Northwestern Outdoors. We've got to go, but here's hoping that the good Lord blesses you in the days ahead, and here's hoping you get to spend some time, whether it be in a duck blind or walking some fields for upland birds or maybe looking for some deer. Just get out there and do it. Remember, it's your country and your outdoors, so get out there and enjoy it.